All right. Well, thanks for coming out. It is April. Good to have Josh. Finally. We don't conflict with Taekwondo, finally. So glad to have you. Tonight we're talking about networking. Does anybody know what networking is? Bueller?
Isn't it like building up references of people that you know who can help get you into a new workplace?
Yeah. I wouldn't say references, but I would say connections. It's having connections with folks, like this diagram shows. Yeah, this is you. You know this person. You know, you're trying to meet the person over there. One person introduces you to somebody else. The formal definition is networking is a proactive approach to meeting people so that you can learn something and potentially help them. It's a collaborative effort. What does collaborating mean? Collaboration.
It's multiple people working on it.
Multiple people working together, right? Whether it's selling a product or a service, landing a job, solving a problem, learning a thing or two about something, or meeting the love of your life, right? How many times have people been connected? You know, somebody's a matchmaker or something. That's networking, right? People get jobs through networking. You get internships. A lot of things happen with networking. So why is networking important? It can help us identify a career path. One of the biggest things for you guys at your age is talking to folks that do a career or a hobby or something that you're interested in. You can learn about it through networking, talking to folks before you spend the money. How many folks do you guys know? I imagine we all know somebody spent $80,000 on a college education only to finish and go, ooh, I don't like that, right? It happens. So one of the immediate things you guys can do, because you're all in kind of that age group where you're getting to a point of what do I do next? You can talk to folks and figure out if that's really what you want to do. So let's use a real life example. Somebody want to throw out something that they're interested in doing? That they're thinking about doing someday.
Like as a career?
As a career, yeah. All right, thank you, Landon. Landon and I visited at the youth retreat, and one of the things he's thinking about, thank you for sharing
I was
this.
about to say that.
He's thinking about sales. So just real quick, in this room, who do we know that does sales? That's a professional salesperson. Mr. Greer. Boom, right? That wasn't very hard. So do you know Mr. Greer?
I don't.
You don't. So what could Landon do to meet Mr. Greer to learn more about a profession in sales?
Talk to his daughter who comes here sometimes.
True. Or ask Luke and Abby to introduce him to Mr. Greer, right? That's what networking is. All right, let's do another example. What's something else that you guys are thinking about doing? Bueller?
Mr. Alamado's got one.
I want to be president. I'm too old.
So, if Mr. Alvado wanted to get involved in local politics, who are some of the folks we can connect him with? Think about folks that he could talk to. Do we know anybody?
What's their name? That lady that spoke at Life Skills at the Stones. I don't know what her name is.
Oh,
Mrs. Hoffman's sister?
Yeah, Mrs. B.
Yeah, Burstner?
Yeah.
and what does she do?
She's a lobbyist.
Boom! So see how fast we did that with networking? It's not easy, but it's not hard, right? So why is it important? It can help us identify a career path before we spend $80,000. It can help us get a job. Studies show that 70% of jobs are obtained through networking. People knew somebody in the company. So one of the things I challenge you guys with is after tonight, ask your parents, folks you come across, how they've gotten jobs before, if they've gotten jobs through people they knew. And you'll be shocked at how often that happens. It can help us get into a college program, a competitive program if we know somebody that knows somebody. If we're in sales, it can help us make more sales. If we want a book published, it can help us get our book published. It can help us land an internship. Engineering is real popular in our area. People want to be engineers. It's really important in engineering to have an internship. Would you agree with that, Luke, based on some of the things that Adam has done? Mm-hmm. The experience from internships is key to the next thing. It can allow us to learn from others. I love this story. I've told it 100 times. Young man talking to an old man. Young man says, you don't make mistakes. Why is that? And the old man says, because I have experience. The young man says, well, how'd you get experience? The old man says, I made a lot of mistakes. So through networking, you can avoid some mistakes, right? Because you can talk to other folks and learn from them. Remember that stat I shared, I think I've shared it the last 2 months? The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that you guys will have 12 to 15 jobs before you retire, for the folks that go into the workforce. So you're going to need connections and networking. So if you're going to have 12 to 15 jobs, and studies show that 70% of jobs come through people you know, networking is pretty important, right? So today, the next 45 minutes of things you'll learn will probably earn you about $750,000 over your lifetime. Just saying.
Sounds good.
Peter's like, I'm in. And then finally, why is it important? All successful people are good at networking. Here's some quotes. Armstrong Williams, he's a political commentator, radio host, author. He says, networking is an essential part of building wealth. Sonia Sotomayor, who is she? Bueller? What's up, Grace? You want to take a shot? No?
No.
She is a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. Sonia Sotomayor. To succeed in this world, you have to be known to people. Robert Kiyosaki, he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He said the richest people in the world look for and build networks. Everyone else looks for work. So you can either be sending internet resumes, right? Or you can network. 70% of jobs come through networking. And it's not just about jobs. If you're looking to start a business or publish a book or find a good doctor, right? What do your parents do when they try to find a good doctor for you? What do they do?
Ask around.
They ask around. Also known as networking. Tom Peters, he was a big management practices author. He's been pretty quiet for about the last 10 years, but he had about a 30-year run of writing all kinds of bestsellers. He said, your power is almost directly proportional to the thickness of your phone contacts. And back in his day, it would be like, black book that you write your things in there. And the time you spend maintaining it. Put bluntly, the most potent people I've known have been the best networkers. They know everybody from everywhere and have just been out to lunch with most of them. Okay? And you know how much networking costs? Peter, you know this one. How much does networking cost?
Quite a bit.
Actually, most of the time it's free, right? Most of the time it's free. Or maybe it'll cost you a cup of coffee if you meet somebody for coffee. Or, heaven's sake, if you took somebody to lunch, then it's like $30, right?
Well, and
Huh.
at the same time, it's a collaborative effort, and if they're doing the same thing, then they take you out to lunch and then it kind of.
Exactly. Yep, that's right. So how does it work? So back in 1929, back when Mr. Olivato and I were teenagers, there was a gal that came up with a concept of 6 degrees of separation. You guys ever heard of that before? It is a concept that we are connected to any other person in the world by just 6 degrees of separation. So I know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows them. And they've done studies, and that's actually the case. We've also talked about, in our past lessons, the social obligation loop. And if you recall what I said, what that means is, if I call somebody that doesn't know me, and I'm calling them to ask them something, the likelihood of them calling me back is at best 50-50, right? If they're busy people, 50-50 that they'll call me back. But if I call a friend of Mr. Olivato, I don't know him, but Mr. Olivato is a good friend of him, and I say, David Olivato recommended that I give you a call. You know, my name is Rick McFadden, would you call me back? What do you think the percentage of them calling me back is?
High.
Like 85 to 95%, right? And why is that? It's because that social obligation loop, they're going to see, that person is going to see Mr. Olivato again, right? And what's the first thing? In just normal conversation, hey, you know, did you get a chance to talk to Rick? Oh, I forgot to call him back, right? You don't want to have that. So those are 2 ways it works. Next, the fact of the matter is, so for specifically hiring, the fact of the matter is, resumes and interviews have a very low correlation to how well the candidate will do. I've had awful people interview great, and I've interviewed people that interviewed poorly and were great employees. There's no correlation. Back in the 80s and 90s, Jack Welch, GE, he was a very prominent CEO, and after he retired, he wrote a book, and he said GE was a massive company. They still are, but back in the day, they were it. He said, despite all of their tests, all the different things they would do to identify the right candidate, they found that 1/3 of the time they got it right, 1/3 of the time they got it wrong, and 1/3 of the time it was just a mediocre choice, decision. So there's very little correlation. Now, with networking, when somebody can say, I've known this person my whole life, or whatever, I've worked with this person before, and they're great, that changes the ball game. So when you can go in somewhere and somebody that knows you has already told the hiring manager that you've done great, you do great work, that's a game changer. Similarly, before you go interview, what should you be doing? So networking maybe got you in front of the hiring manager, but before you go in, remember how we talked about get there early and do all the different things? Before you even leave the house, what should you do with that person that knows the hiring manager? What kind of conversations should you have with your friend that referred you over?
Thank you.
Well, yes, but how about, so tell me about this position. Tell me about the person I'm meeting with. What are they like? What are their hot buttons? A lot of companies have like mottos, right? Or mission statements, we're about this or that. If you can know what that is, and then you put that in, remember how we talked about pitching your 3 strengths, your unique value proposition? If you talk to the person that referred you over, the insider, and you find out, whatever, they're real big into volunteer service. They value volunteer service. When you go in there, what are you going to talk about? The volunteer service that you do, right? Okay. Another reason for networking is there's always somebody who knows something that you don't, whatever the case may be. So it's nice to be connected with different people, get different insights. Oh, you know what I was going to add to getting referred over to somebody? So today, I went to the Republican State Assembly. It was at CU in the Event Center. There was about 8,000 people. So the way our election process works, we have a caucus system. So we don't vote in like a primary necessarily. We get together for a caucus. You guys have heard of the word caucus. So we get together based on our district, and we select delegates to go to the assembly. You go to the county assembly, and then people from the county assembly get picked to go to the state assembly. So bottom line, I'm at the state assembly, and we voted today on who would be our candidates to be on the primary ballot that's going to happen.